Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that I'm going to show you right now is something that gun controllers are probably not going to want out, because a private sector solution put in place by private schools is building their own independent police force, and they're doing it with more people, more coverage, and less money than every single gun controller had told you was required. This is what happens when people are motivated and they don't look to gun control as the only and sole solution. Everything that I've got for you is linked in the description box below. I cannot wait to hear what you guys think, and please send this out, because the sooner there are more narratives on a large scale, the sooner gun control loses a footing. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and now let's get into this. People, amazing patriots across this land, check this out. I'm just going to read the title real quick, and this is from NPR, right? So here, legitimately, this is actually, you know what? I'm going to just show you right there, NPR, okay? They must have had some, Quaaludes, water pills, I don't know, but they started actually blowing the gun control narrative out of the water and, changing on some mainline gun control propaganda that I have to show you. Let's get it. Fearing the worst. Schools deploy armed police to thwart gun violence. Now, of course, gun violence isn't a gun violence thing. It's actually a violent person with a gun. Minute, we'll get past it for the purpose of this. But September 11th, that's from this morning, okay? They're not partnering with existing municipalities and local cops. They're making their own police force. Listen to this. This is interesting stuff. I want to hear your thoughts on it in the comments. In Pittsburgh in March, goodness gracious, words. In Pittsburgh in March 2023, it was a false alarm that a gunman was roaming on a Catholic high school, and then another that touched off frightening evacuations and a robust police response in the city. It also prompted the diocese to rethink what constitutes a model learning environment. That's the Catholic authority. So months after SWAT teams met hundreds of students, the Catholic Diocese of Pittsburgh began forming its own armed police force. Now, what do you think about the Catholic side of this, the police force of this, the private army, the papal army? There's obviously shades of history on this one. But in the individual locality in Pittsburgh, which is a swing state, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh's in Pennsylvania, this is interesting, because the gun controllers would tell you that the only solution is to strip the gun rights of every single citizen in the United States. But meanwhile, a Catholic diocese, which is responsible for the entire area in the Pittsburgh area of their schools and churches, is doing it with complete coverage, complete professionalism, a police power hierarchy, and under budget of what the gun controllers would tell us was required, which is why they can't do it. Listen to this. This is not what the gun controllers are telling you. Again, they're about to blow some gun control norms out of the water here. I think NPR, whoever wrote this, might not have a job tomorrow. Anyway, let's keep going. Wendell Hisrick, a former safety director for the city and career FBI unit chief, was hired that year to form a department to safeguard, listen to this, 39 Catholic schools, as well as dozens of churches in the region. Hisrick has since added 15 officers and 4 supervisors, including many formerly retired officers and state troopers, who now oversee school campuses fitted with stop-the-bleed kits, cameras, and defibrillators. They've got armed physical presence. They have observation through cameras, which multiplies the availability of coverage, and they've got materials on hand to stop anything that goes wrong. Again, wait for the end of this. Let's keep going, because they are taking proactive approaches while the politicians who scream about taking your guns are doing nothing and letting it continue. Again, I would like to highlight the fact that the tragedy in Georgia, which is the impetus for this whole article, that school had funding put in place by Republicans, had school safety requirements put in place by Republicans. The narrative that the gun controllers would put out there is that the gun lobby owns everything and Republicans are owned by the gun lobby and they only care about making money and profit over people, all their little taglines. Well, evidence like this is kind of flying in the face of that. I'm saying, guys, the sooner we share this stuff, the more they have to go on defense and change their tactics. All right, check it. But he added that the officers had to view schools as a special assignment. Quote, I want them to be role models. I want them to be good fits within the school. I'm looking for someone to know how to deal with kids and with parents, and most importantly, knows how to de-escalate a situation. That statement right there flies in the face and destroys every single gun control argument for hardening schools. Well, we can't harden schools because kids would feel like it's a prison. We harden everything else. Tim and I on Second Legacy dove into a much deeper conversation on this, and they do. They cover concerts, they cover banks, they cover politicians, they cover all sorts of places, government buildings. Those don't feel like prisons, oddly enough. But if you're going to harden and protect the schools with this type of focus on, what was the exact words? Role models, good fits, good with parents and teachers, and more importantly, de-escalation. Waiting for the reason why this is not a good idea, Democrats and gun controllers. Again, I understand that all Democrats aren't gun controllers, but I'm talking about the politicians, the ones in power. Those all are gun controllers. And this is the part where NPR took the water pills I mentioned earlier. Gun violence is a leading cause of death for young people in America. Hold the phone. Skirt. If you were paying attention, you would know that that verbiage just changed. For the last 2 years, it has been the mainline staple propaganda push that it is the leading cause of death in children is gun violence. All of a sudden now, it's weird that verbiage changed. Gun violence is a leading cause. Well, that's weird. This is NPR. NPR is not a conservative source. They're always pushing gun control. So, I don't know. Why would that be? You guys can let me know in the comments field below. This is why we pound these things so much, because eventually they have to change course and we destroy their narratives. All right, let's keep going. This part right here is where they blow more gun control out of the water with CDC stats. Again, I don't know what was going on in NPR. Still, scant research supports the creation of school police forces to deter gun violence. And what data exists can raise as many questions as answers. Data shows over half of the U.S. firearm deaths are, in fact, suicides. A sobering statistic from the Federal Center of Disease Control and Prevention that reflects a range of ills. Wait a minute! Why would NPR be casting and highlighting the fact that something we know, and we talk about all the time, 50% of the gun violence in the nation is suicide? So, that's kind of weird, because that puts it right around 23 to 25,000 people per year in a population of 400 million people that are killed with a homicide with a gun. So that kind of changes the math a little bit for their talking points on gun controls. Again, I don't know why NPR is doing this. Whatever, let's just keep rolling. Take it as we get it. But this part is interesting. Listen to the actual reduction in casualties that data does suggest from the Secret Service. The Secret Service Threat Assessment, published in 2021, 3 years ago, analyzed plots from 2006 to 2018 and found students who planned school violence had guns readily at home. It also found that school districts that contracted sworn law officers who work as full or part-time school resource officers had some advantage. The officers proved pivotal in about a third of the 67 foiled plots. That's about 24 terrible tragedy situations averted by someone armed on the actual campus with a firearm. Remember that whole tagline? And Tim brought this up in the Second Legacy episode. You guys need to check it out, by the way. Second Legacy, me and Tim. It is a totally different take on this stuff because it's deeper and we have a really deep conversation. Excellent. But anyway, I'll leave it in the description for you. A third. Do you remember when the gun controllers would say if we could save one life, it's worth banning all ARs? If we could save one life, all the gun control inconvenience is acceptable? You remember all those conversations and talking points? Well, right here, when you put SROs in schools, you get a 30% reduction or a 33% reduction in actual effectiveness of these shooters. That seems like a benefit to me. I don't know. So then the next line here, and this is the last one I'll wrap with because they always say that it would just cost too much money, which is laughable in the United States because we just make up money out of nowhere. This part right here, everything that I just showed you, 39 schools, private schools, Catholic schools, 15 churches, 15 employees, 4 supervisors, a police private hierarchy for under $1 million a year. Think about that for a second. That level of impact, that level of effectiveness, and the government and the local municipalities and the local responsibilities are not being taken. You tell me why, when you have something that effective, that cost efficient, and that much initiative, why that's not happening. And that's the problem. And as we wrap this up, I just want to reiterate something. In this article by itself, you just destroyed the gun control arguments of it's the gun stupid. That's the only solution. Destroyed that hardening schools would make it feel like a prison. It wouldn't, from the personality stuff that we just talked about. It'll be too expensive. Oh, that's $1 million, covers that many people, that many schools. And the effectiveness, which is about 33% reduction in the negative outcomes in these situations. I don't know, guys. That sounds like a good starting point beyond the Harris special, which is just take all the guns, even though I've never said take the guns, of which we did a video this morning where she's always saying take the guns. So that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.